First off, yes, thank you again. And hi to all those watching. I'm Hasini Lakshminarayanan. I am from the south of India. I'm living in Chennai. I'm currently 14 years old. I run an organization called The First Step, where we've been working towards youth empowerment for the past 2.5 years since the first lockdown pandemic. That's since 2020. Um, First, initially, we started through interviewing young achievers, slowly writing about them in various magazines, newspapers, and forums. From there, we started growing, and now currently, one venture we've been working on is our monthly e-magazine, which is called GYM. It's an abbreviation to Guiding Young Minds. So we've been working on that currently. Our aim for GYM is that we pass it on free to about 10 lakh students across the world in the first 36 months. So that apart from this, I am a writer. I've authored two books and I'm a TEDx speaker. I represent Government of Tamilnadu. That's the state I live in as the Young Nutrition Ambassador under the scheme ICDS. So in short, I'd say that's about me. Apart from all the formal introduction, I'd say I'd like to be a very enthusiastic person. I guess you yourself can't describe yourself as enthusiastic. It should come from the others. But for me, I've always wished to be enthusiastic because I want to learn a lot, right? So I want to take back a lot and then also give back a lot. So since my childhood, I've grown up, wanting to be an inspiration, wanting to take up stages without fear and speak and do motivational sessions and whatnot. So if there's one thing people describe me for is how I smile, because Hasini defines to laughter and smile. So
Oh, wow.
I guess that's me in short. So yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Wow, that's amazing. You're doing so much at such a young age. It's fantastic. Really.
Thank you.
And could you tell us a bit about how this journey started at the beginning of the first lockdown?
Definitely. And Nitya, we both belong to the same age category.
Yeah.
So it just it gets a little awkward when you say that. But yeah, thank you so much. And again, you're doing phenomenal work. As to what I've been doing so far and how I started, I started in lockdown, as I said, where I guess most teens were under the influence of Netflix, and pretty much you just didn't have any other option but to face these four walls and one digital interface, right? So as a kid, I grew up being very hyperactive. Like I need people, right? I'll always be talking. I just want people around me. So as lockdown hit, I, got into a quite forced place because I couldn't really communicate, though I had an option to call up my friend using my phone and all. But yes, we all were under the influence of Netflix, but for me, it was more so only Netflix. So yes, I did, got into Netflix, and then I do know that it's not an healthy option, but believe me, I guess at that point, you really didn't know what else to do. So I got on in Netflix and then I watched a lot, kept watching until the point I realized that I'll have to be productive from now, from then, because I just had so much time and I realized that I will have to utilize it into learning something. So I went to my dad and then he told me to do this small project for Father's Day. So we interviewed a bunch of people, basically this cute little documentation about, a child or even an adult that's a child explaining as to how he or she likes or, their favorite moments with their father, blah, 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 this cute shit. And we edited this into a small, cute documentation. And then we had an idea to present this as a gift to them on Father's Day. So initially, we didn't have a plan of posting this on social media, but we ended up doing it. So, and then I liked interviewing. So that's how it pretty much started. I wanted to continue interviewing people. And I've always wanted to be an inspiration and, make public appearances and take
Yeah.
up stages and talk.
Yeah.
So why not combine concepts together? So we just came up with this whole new idea of working towards youth empowerment and interviewing young achievers. That's basically interviewing children who've achieved at a young. So yeah, that's how it basically started. That's interviewing young achievers. So initially I interviewed a couple of them and then I got into LinkedIn. Now LinkedIn was a life changer because it did get me to meet a lot new people and it gave me a lot more opportunities. So I decided to utilize LinkedIn to its best because LinkedIn is one underrated, I'd say, among youth platform because it's so damn professional, being very frank. And apart from IG or Facebook or Snapchat, there's a lot of learning to do in here. I'm not saying that teens should be in other social platforms, but I feel like for just be on LinkedIn, maybe you learn a lot, right? So
Yeah.
lot from there I got a lot of opportunities, and eventually we started growing. So we had multiple phases, as in I first started writing for Brain Feed magazine, then Hindu newspaper. If you're here in India, I'm pretty sure Hindu is like a big, well-known newspaper here. So
Yeah.
Hindu, and then
Yeah.
and then I got my opportunity to do my first TED talk in Chennai, and then slowly, yes, that's how we grew from 2 steps, and then had a fall, and then again try to push myself, and then take another step. So yeah, basically I started with no expectations, but just to be productive, which was so unusual to me back then in lockdown, but. Yeah, I guess I've learned a lot and I thoroughly enjoy what I'm doing. So that's
That's
about it.
amazing. That's very great.
Yeah, I mean, you never knew at the beginning that you would get to where you are today, and I'm sure you have a long journey ahead of you, so that's fantastic. Yeah.
And could you tell us a bit more about what you do as a youth ambassador for nutrition in your local kind of county?
Right, definitely. First, let me take time to explain what the government scheme is all about. Right?
Mhm.
So I work under this scheme called Integrated Child Development Services, ICDS, right? So this was found somewhere in the early 19s or 2000s. I'm not very, very clear about that. But the scheme basically was found to improve nutritional balance among people. But then currently the aims of the schemes are that they focus on providing nutrition to 0 to 6 children, to their mothers, to adolescent girls. So that's the scheme of, I'm sorry, that is the aim of ICDS. What I am doing under ICDS is I spread awareness about taboo topics to adolescent girls. So this is the particular sector I've been assigned to address. So far, we've done multiple sessions along with professional nutritionists, psychologists, to adolescent school students, girls in both schools and colleges. So I'd say it was quite a good opportunity because I got to address taboo topics. And more than people going into YouTube and searching about menstrual health or even simple questions, right, about their regular monthly period. When I was moderating this talk along with the nutritionist, I said it was very, very open, right? It was, pure information, not like Google or YouTube. You have so much flooded information and you don't know what to pick up. We also had this medium incorporated where we let the participants ask questions directly to the nutritionist, which is not so common, I'd say, in most interviews. So that's one thing which I'm proud about. And again, it's been going very good so far. So that's what I do as representing the government of Tamil Nadu as a young nutrition ambassador.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
That's really great.
And finally, what is your advice to kids if you had to pick an advice? Even though you're just a kid yourself, if you had to inspire others, what would you say?
Well, this is definitely not an advice because I don't think first if I'm in a position to give an advice to someone else, but I just say this out from my heart. As a teen to another teen out there or another student out there, just figure out what gives you happiness and then try your level best to at least experience and follow what your passion is, right? Because in today's world, what I feel being around a peer group, or the peer group I am in are a bunch of extroverts, right?
Mm.
So there's a lot of people, a lot of influence, a lot of competition. I guess all of us are in a society which has so much influence, right? There are so much career opportunities in today's world. There's so much knowledge that you can acquire. There's so much more to study. So under all of this roof, the biggest responsibility of a student, I'd say, is that trying to figure out what you really want to do, right? Because a lot of people today who are there in their 30s and 40s are regretting that they didn't make a life choice earlier on trying to figure out what they want to do.
Right.
And ended up doing something they never expected them to do. Right?
Mm.
So it's always better to find out what you want to do and start out young. Though you don't have to, become an entrepreneur if you're interested in business, just for an example, at 13 or 14, you could at least learn a lot about it, experience it, so that you don't have to learn everything in your 20s and then fail and then fail. And then, become successful at your 30s, right? Because being successful isn't definitely an overnight thing. So if you gain experience, I definitely feel like it'll be great when you start out, being at your 20s, at your millennials, it'll be very helpful for you later on. So that for you to figure out what gives you happiness, there's a lot of exploring to be done. Figure out that and then follow whatever gives you happiness, follow your passion, your dream. So that's probably the one thing I like to say, because I started interviewing people working on youth empowerment, hoping that the stories of the people I interview be an inspiration to the other teens out there and they start their ventures at a young age. But I didn't know that I'll also be an example for that. Listening to their stories, I got really inspired and I also wanted to do something. So that's how I started. So, just explore a lot, learn a lot when you're young, because I don't think there's a better time to learn and explore, especially now that the world has so much tech and you can acquire a lot of knowledge from it. So